In this occasional series, The Washington Post brings you up to speed on some of the biggest stories of the week. This week, Islamic State's caliphate has been toppled in Iraq and Syria. Why isn't anyone celebrating? The biggest story, the end of the Islamic State's caliphate. The Pentagon recently announced that 400 Marines deployed to Syria to fight the Islamic State would be returning home, a decision that appeared to mark the group's defeat and the end of its self-declared caliphate. But the battle isn't over. Iraqi and Syrian forces have yet to secure their porous border, which the Islamic State once spanned, and they are still chasing militants in canyon-filled deserts. Tamer El-Gobashi, Mustafa Salim and Louisa Lovelock explain why few are celebrating the end of ISIS at this point. 6 other important stories. 1 Photos from North Korea's East Coast show how tough life is away from the capital. The North Korean regime likes to portray the country as a socialist paradise in which well-dressed citizens take to the streets to celebrate their spectacular advances in missile and nuclear technology. But a very different picture of life in North Korea emerged from a British photographer who was permitted to travel along the country's east coast at the end of November. Ed Jones, a Seoul-based photographer for Agence France Presse, has been traveling to the country since the French news agency opened a bureau in Pyongyang last September, according to Anna Fifield. 2 Secretary of State Tillerson gets a chilly reception from European allies. Tillerson's trip to Europe, normally friendly territory, is underscoring the difficulties of defending Trump administration policies to skeptical allies, as Carol Morello and Michael Birnbaum write. Such sentiments were echoed by Germany's foreign minister, who warned on Tuesday that the transatlantic political architecture established after World War II is beginning to crumble. He said the Trump administration often views Europe as a competitor and sometimes even as an economic adversary. Read the full story by Ann Giron and Swudme Kennett. 3 Trump declares Jerusalem the capital of Israel. Responding to Trump's decision, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed Israel's irreplaceable relationship with the United States. Other U.S. allies were more skeptical, even calling the move a catastrophe. But while Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, he delayed the move of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv. Adam Taylor explains why that matters. For Venezuela's economy is in free fall. The government says a digital currency is the answer. It's easy to see why digital currencies might seem attractive to politically divided and economically strained nations like Venezuela. If every Venezuelan had invested his or her gross 2009 income of $11,500 into Bitcoin, the investment would have been worth about $8.4 billion in May this year per person. But when Venezuela announced its plans to launch an own digital currency, many ridiculed the idea. Among other things, it would require a socialist government to think like a startup in a country where more than a third of the population lacks an internet connection.